Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake Stick with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of JakeStick.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching this video on your YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Now, if you're listening to this on any of our audio platforms, download this episode and additional episodes, and please give us a 5-star rating. I really appreciate it. I am so honored and thrilled to welcome this artist today. As of this recording, he has over 2.9 million followers on Instagram, and his YouTube channel has over 2.68 million subscribers, and all of his videos combined all of them. As of this recording, 281 million views. And right now, his exhibit, Dumb Dreams and Messy Hands, can be seen at K11 Shanghai Art Museum in Shanghai, China, until October 7th. So please help me welcome Danny Casale to the podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Jacob.
Danny, this is probably one of my biggest guests I've had this year. So I'm very honored that you took time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
No, hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. I mean, it's an honor and a privilege. And I think this is the first conversation that I'm having, at least here in America, about the show over in Shanghai. So, we're doing it right here with your show.
I'm very honored that you selected the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast as your platform to be the first American-based podcast to talk with you about this incredible exhibit. We'll get to that exhibit in the future, but first, let's talk about origin stories. So when we get interested in cartoons, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in media and arts?
Yeah, I think in a way I've always doodled. I've always doodled throughout class growing up, as early as I can remember. Kindergarten, I was always drawing and, asking the teacher to hang it up by their desk. But, it really persisted through the years, middle school, high school, college. And I've been out of college for 5 years or so now. But the main thing with drawing and doodling is it was my social currency in a way. That's what I was good at. That's kind of all I did. My classmates would look over and see me drawing and sketching on my Spanish notes, and they'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird, or that's kind of cool, or whatever. And it also just kept me awake. I wasn't the most enthusiastic with school. I didn't have the best grades. I tried my best, but drawing and doodling during class and even on my homework just kind of kept me awake and kept me going. And, I'm very thankful that they kept me from falling asleep in class, and also ended up making me some friends at the end of the day, because I would draw comics. I would draw funny scenarios. I feel like there were even some of like the early memes, so it really kind of quickly became a part of my personality, I would say.
Absolutely, because here's the thing. I drew a lot when growing up. However, I was so stunned by religious school, because the thing is, I drew a drawing of like a Miss Frizzle or Mrs. Jeepers, from Bailey's Schoolhouse, while I was supposed to be learning about Jewish education and everything, and I got sent to the principal's office.
Oh yeah, that's probably happened a time or two to me. I consider that to be just one of the occasional consequences of being an artist at that age. You got to sometimes face the music, when you draw on a wall, like I did plenty of times, or I drew on the radiator next to me in chemistry class a ton. I even drew on the school lunch trays a few times, and I would just like find it funny to see them go into circulation and see who got which tray that I doodled on. Definitely got in trouble a few times. So I mean, if you're trying to play it safe, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
I totally agree, because here's the thing. I think I transferred over from artistry to writing, and all my listing with stories. Like, there's so much stories, but however, I can go on and on about them. But however, it must have been very interesting about going from like continuing to grow and build on these artwork. So I got to give you kudos because I dropped it as soon as I got in trouble, but you kept on going, my friend.
No, I appreciate it. Well, you found your passion. Which is podcasting, and but I think everybody has to experiment a little bit as to what their passion truly is. And I think I got very lucky where mine was storytelling. You know, it was telling stories in my doodles. It was telling stories in the little home movies that I would make growing up. But obviously, when you're in school and you're in class, you can't express yourself, and all you have is a pen or a pencil and some paper. And I, chose to express myself with those things, and that manifested itself as doodles. And if you were to tell me that I'd be doing this now professionally, I wouldn't believe you. I mean, of course, it was always the dream, but how the hell do you become an artist? I mean, it's like so arbitrary. So, I'm glad it all worked out, but it was definitely against all odds.
And that's amazing. And the thing is with the artists that I think about, my mind immediately gravitates toward to the comic book artists that I adore. The Jim Lees, the Alex Rosses, the Phil Jimenez's, the Ethan Van Scrivers, all the incredible, all the Tim Sale and Bruce Timm, all those incredible people that helped create and part of my art, part of the artwork and everything. So it's been, and even the late Neil Adams, I can't forget about him, or no recently departed John Romita Sr. So those were all of them did incredible artwork.
Yeah, yeah. And all those folks you mentioned, I mean, they have a profound impact on you and your personal life. You think about even all the artists behind the, cartoons you watched growing up, or really, you don't think of, a lot of people don't stop to consider how much art and cartoons affect one's life, especially in the past few decades. You have fictional characters, like superheroes, who maybe necessarily aren't real, but they have a very real and profound impact on your life. Even though they're fictional, it doesn't matter, right? And so, I always saw artists as being the closest thing to like magicians, and making you feel some sort of magic. So, the fact that I guess I'm considered to be one of those magicians is pretty wild.
It's incredible. So who were some of your artists that you admired growing up?
Growing up, when I was in my early teens, well, of course, let me backtrack. I always loved what folks like Walt Disney built over, generations. But even Jim Henson, with the Muppets, again, like making these very, very, goofy fictional characters who are made out of felt and stuffing. And if it's Walt Disney, it's obviously pen to paper, physical animation. But these characters are not real, they don't exist, but they feel as if they do. And it doesn't even matter that they don't exist, because they have such a real presence in everybody's life. I mean, not even just child's lives. Like, you have entire families going to Disneyland still today, and you have entire families going to watch the latest Muppets movie today. And you even have Sesame Street, who like act as real foundational sort of teachers to children as they grow up, and children of course turn into adults. So like there's a lot of people out there who were raised in a way by these fictional characters, and got taught lessons and values, and how to stay safe. And so that was always very, of course, I didn't realize it as I was growing up, but in hindsight, very, again, magical to me. And as I got into my, early teens, say 14 years old, I really became fans of these animated shows called Adventure Time and Regular Show on Cartoon Network. Adventure Time was by a gentleman by the name of Pendleton Ward. And just seeing these, like, adults bring their wacky, goofy imaginations to life, and having those shows go on to be very successful hits, always hugely inspiring to me. And the goal was always to have my characters someday become as well known and inspiring as those types of characters. It was always just very, very motivating to see adults doing it for a living. And what is it that they're doing for a living? They're just being goofy and imaginative, and kind of just thinking larger than life and everyday reality, really just, making funny stuff up and uh, ideally making it touch, millions and millions of people.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned Walt Disney and Jim Henson. Both of them have masterminded some of the best characters and delivered some of the best characters of all time. Everyone is synonymous with Mickey and Minnie and Donald and
Mhm.
Daisy and Goofy, along with Kermit and Piggy and Fozzie and Gonzo and Animal. So, what goes through your mind when you create a character?
When I create a character, my main character today is a character by the name of Spesh, and Spesh is short for special, as his motto is "You're special," which has come to be a bit of my personal motto. But the when I first created Spesh, it was very happenstance. This is back in 2017, when I sort of first started my animation journey, and I was just trying to sketch, a funny, kind of creepy, off-putting character. You didn't know whether you wanted to love him or, feel off-put by him. And what came of it was like this very, doodly, like cat-like, blobby character. And it was telling you how you're special, and how if a murderer came up and tried to kill you, he would tell the murderer to not do that. That's how special I think you are. Very strange, classic like meme type on say Facebook or Instagram, and that went very viral. But I never would have thought that character would have gone on to become my main character. The saying "you're special" became very, very popular and very synonymous with my brand. And of course, the visuals with that character changed over time. Spesh got more plump, more chubby, more cute, more fluffy, obviously more refined, as we started like figuring out collectively as the world, like who Spesh really is. And so with that one, like, I just sketched, I just put pen to paper, and I, didn't know what was going to come out or what would come of it. But very naturally, very organically, my main character, my poster child character, came to life. And that came together over the course of a few years, and as did a few other characters, that I sketched like, in a similar manner. But nowadays when I'm doodling or sketching or writing in my journal or, graffitiing on a mural wall or whatever, I still am never quite sure what's going to come out. And that's how it's always been with me. I never really had too much of a plan in my brain. I kind of just always went for it and saw what happened. And I think that's the allure of my work. It's very it has that doodly feel because I'm kind of truly making it up as I go. So to answer your question, I don't really know what's going on through my head when I come up with a character, except maybe how I'm feeling that in that exact moment, maybe how I like a vibe that I want to go for. Do I want to go for cute or cuddly? Do I want to go for a bigger character, smaller character? Do I want to go for something more creepy and weird? Or all those definitely play an effect. But I guess the goal when I do sketch is to just have fun and see what happens, kind of just go for it.
Absolutely. That's what I love about character making and everything. So I want to talk to you about some of the one of the major things that a lot of my audience might recognize you from is from your YouTube videos. And I picked out a couple of them to talk about you. And one video that I was watching was before we had our conversation was your most probably your most vulnerable and your most personal. It was surviving the worst year of my life. And as of right now, this recording has over 27,000. So I want to applaud you for being brave and for showing casing that you had a rough 2022.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was definitely the most honest thing I've ever put out there. And I, of course, had my own rough year, as many others have, whether it was 2022, 2021, 2020 was rough for a lot of folks. But 2022 was, of course, that was my year, for, hitting my own personal struggles. And that was the first time that kind of happened to me, to that sort of point where I felt like obviously I had to work through it first, but once I did come out the other end, I felt the need to talk about it, because I feel it, if you go through something like that, it's only as good as how much you want to share it and share your experience with others to help others. So rather than kind of bottle it up and act like it never happened, I wanted to talk about it publicly, to my audience. And anytime that I am that honest and vulnerable to my audience, it tends to always be received very well, which I'm very fortunate for. But it's never happened to that degree. I mean, in previous years, I would talk about very personal stuff, but I would talk about it, through my animated characters, and they would be received very well, and it's very powerful, to be coming from such a real place. But I would say that was the first time that it came from me, not one of my characters, and you got to see how the human behind all these animations has been doing. And I'm very blessed that that was received well, and I hope that it helps others, whether you're an artist or whatever, like regardless of what you're doing with your life and what you're going through. I hope that people seeing that someone like myself is has struggled in the past, and how I worked to get through it, maybe that could help others out there. That's all I could hope for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, guys, if you need any help, if you're listening to this right away, 988, very important number, 988. So
Yep.
you got to plug that in, because
Absolutely.
we're all having our own struggles. And I think that if you can't afford therapy, and if you're worried about talking to your friends and family about it, 988 is the perfect way to talk.
Absolutely. Good plug. That's a good plug. And I feel like, it's not, it definitely hasn't been talked about enough in years past, but I feel like it is being talked about more, and resources are being put out there more, especially especially after 2020. So progress is being made, which is good. More people are talking about it.
Absolutely. So I want to move this on to a lighter conversation, go back to the lighter side. So let's talk about one of my things. I found three that immediately gravitated towards. When your crush texts you that with 3.4 YouTube follows, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. That's like the best way. That should have been the way to end How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That was a few years ago. I collaborated on that with another very talented animator by the name of Weird Helga. And we just came up with this funny skit. I feel like we all go through it at some point in our lives where someone you really like texts you and you're freaking out and you don't know how to respond. So that was a fun, one, especially stylistically, because I matched, my sort of blobby style with her more detailed style, and people loved it. Like you said, something like over 3 million people watched it, which is insane.
Absolutely, absolutely. In addition to that, I could not get over that arrogant dinosaur and AirPods not for poor people.
Yeah, that's one of my personal favorites. The title is insane. I think I made that in early 2019. So like the AirPods were pretty new at the time, and I was just improvising these lines, and I was, I guess, 22 at the time, just improvising these lines in my little Brooklyn apartment, just like, and what ended up happening was a skit manifested itself of a brontosaurus with AirPods pretending like he's better than everybody else. And it just like hit so well. It resonated with so many people. People loved the goofiness. People loved the narrative of like this cocky brontosaurus, and like, someone really trying to inquire as to like why are these little tic tacs in your ears so why do they make you so cool, like what's the secret? That was a fun one. I'm like perfect example of me just making silly voices into a microphone, and somehow people like listening to it, which is incredible.
And that's, I think, a lot of times, a lot of people go back to low stuff because I'm from Kansas, but I did spend some time in New York, especially during lockdown, from shutdown to phase 4 back
Yeah.
in 2020. So I've been there. I was there from June 2017 to May 2021. And believe me, there are some times I thought that I'm like, that I was that little person, and I was talking to numerous brontosauruses.
Oh my God. See, that's the beautiful thing is you either relate to the brontosaurus or you relate to the little guy like questioning the brontosaurus. And then in the end, not to spoil it, the little guy becomes the brontosaurus once he gets his own AirPods. So that was a fun one. That was a really fun one.
Another fun one I gotta say, because it was a mixed media, is I'm a cut.
Yeah.
25 million views.
Yeah, I think that's my most viewed video still. And all these videos are the ones, playing on loop on these big, beautiful screens in Shanghai, which was also fun to see them come so far. But the I'm a Cup video, that one I filmed because I was bored in a hotel room. And I had my camera with me. I said, I'm looking at these cups. I'm like imagining them arguing about, who is the better cup. And again, like another improv sesh that makes no sense, but it was so well received. 25 million views later, and it's so quotable too. I mean, it's just 1 minute of two cups saying "No, I'm a cup," and they're both cups. It's kind of and you wonder like what the analogies are that could be applied to life, but again, me just being stupid in a hotel room, and it brought people a lot of joy, which is pretty awesome.
And it could be the same thing with analytics between back with New York from like someone from Staten Island versus someone that lives on Upper East Side.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that analogy yet, but that is perfect. That is perfect. And I think like what I was trying to get at is, I was always a firm believer that humans are generally very similar, and we should all get along and get past our differences. And we should all realize that we're kind of the same, right? And so these two cups, like one's a glass and the other is like a more
And those
so like
paper
a
cups that you
paper
find in
cup.
the bathroom.
Yeah, or like in a hotel where I was. And so, it's like, of course, they're like made of different material and they have different purposes, but they're both cups. Come on, let's not argue over the nuances. They're both cups.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want before we get talk about exhibit, because a lot of your artwork is under the name, the phrase Coolman Coffeedan. So how did that happen?
Coolman was it was just a combination of words that I was messing around with on Twitter, actually, which is funny given the most recent current events around Twitter completely
I'm not a
rebranding.
huge fan of X. I'm not a huge fan of X.
X. It's so wild. Like, so I guess end of an era,
Mhm.
RIP. But we do have Twitter to thank for my pseudonym, which is Coolman Coffeedan. And this all started when I first learned about Photoshop in 11th grade. I was a junior in high school. It was Halloween time, and I photoshopped a skeleton face on my face. I made it my Twitter profile picture, and I changed my name to Coolman Skeleton Dan just because I thought it was funny. And I was like, sweet. And then the following week, I changed my profile picture to a picture of me drinking a mug of coffee. And I changed my name to Coolman Coffeedan. And I said, oh, this is fun. Every week I'll change my profile picture to a thing, and every week I'll change the name along with it. Coolman blank Dan. The only problem is I just got lazy and I never changed it again. And I immediately fell out of that thing. So it forever became Coolman Coffeedan. And then people started calling me that around town. And as anybody knows, it's tough to find a name or a nickname that sticks. And so I accidentally found that nickname that stuck. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm Coolman Coffeedan. So, it's some people call me just Coffee Dan. Some people call me Cool Coffee Dan. Someone call me Cool Man Dan. There's many variations, but in short, I go by Cool Man, and that's the signature on all my art pieces, for example.
Awesome, Danny. Awesome. So let's talk about this exhibit. So your exhibit, Dumb Dreams and Messy Hands, as we said earlier in the interview, is at K11 Shanghai Art Museum in Shanghai, China. So why was this location the perfect place to host your art?
So Shanghai is an incredibly lively city. And now that, everybody is sort of over the whole COVID chapter and everything's open back up again, thank God. The city of Shanghai is back in full swing, and it's opened its borders again and is allowing folks to come in and travel, which in part is what made the exhibition take so long to actually happen. It was in production for a few years, in partnership with the V Collective agency, who I worked with out there to bring this to life. But for years, this was put on hold because of the COVID situation and the restrictions out in China specifically. So it wasn't until this year, 2023, where it was able to finally happen. And so it is a few years in the making, and it made opening night all the more righteous, because I was like, wow, it's finally happening. I can't believe it. We're finally here. It had the largest opening night in K11 Mall history, as the way it was explained to me by the K11 team, which is absolutely insane. I definitely couldn't have imagined that. But yeah, it's really introducing me and my artist story to China. And there's obviously a lot of folks that know about me and my work in the Western territory of the world, but in a very incredible way, in the past year or two, my works have just been starting to get discovered in China. They've been sort of re-uploaded officially through my official China channels, and translated. And so it's allowing, millions of new folks in that territory of the world who don't have access to, YouTube, who don't have access to Instagram. They're now able to watch my animations fully translated to their native tongue and enjoy them. And of course, people start going down rabbit holes of my huge catalog of animations. So with all that sort of snowballing, and this show finally being able to open up, there's wild traction happening with my work in China right now, which is awesome because, I mean, Asia in general really loves cartoon characters, especially cute ones. And that's what I've been doing, my whole career. So it's kind of wild to see just the intense love and enthusiasm for, what I've been building for a few years. And just even like my little drawings, and I did some live stuff on like mural walls out there, and the love is just through the roof. So it was a beautiful experience, and I got to meet a ton of fans out there that obviously probably were never expecting me to come over there. So huge hit, super immersive and experiential. You get to like meet my characters in real life. Huge, beautiful vinyl sculptures of my character Spesh, a big fluffy sculpture of my character Blue Dude. For the first time, you get to see some of my earliest sketches that we were talking about at the start of this conversation. Two of my earliest sketchbooks from like 2014 through 2016 are actually on display at this exhibit. And, so far it's been up for a little under a month, 3 weeks or so. And every day I'm being tagged in photos and videos of people walking through the experience and enjoying themselves, young and old, all different ages. And so it feels like my own little personal Disneyland that is at that location through October 6th.
Who knows? Who knows? You might have Spesh and Pikachu on one of these things, or Spesh and Mickey.
That would be a dream. That would definitely be a dream, And I love both those guys, so that would be a dream come true for sure.
Absolutely. So what went through your mind when planning the exhibit? Because like you said, you had almost a decade of artwork to showcase on this. So what were some of the most important pieces that the K11 Shanghai audience wanted to see from you?
Yeah, so I think there was like, a few different mediums. There was obviously, the sketchbooks, early sketches that I have in the vault that they wanted to have on display, which I thought was a great idea. And then there was, the vinyl sculptures that bring my characters into reality in a fun way. But so much of my work is digital, of course. So we partnered with Hisense, which have these beautiful screens to I think it was like 40 or 50 screens that show my animations on loop for 3 months. And we obviously wanted to do that in a way where it looked beautiful and felt as if, when you're watching one of these, you're stepping into one of my animations. But to sort of walk through my own show and have, 40, 50 of my animations be playing at the same time. I mean, it's insane to see the amount of work that I've made over the years. You don't, really think about it, but when you look back and you see them all playing at the same time, ready to be, enjoyed, and they're all translated, of course, into Chinese, but it's wild. It's really, really wild. So, to have it be on display, especially at K11, which is just a massive, massive staple in Chinese culture, and they respect the arts and the artists so much. To have all my animations on display at K11 is a really wild, thing to accomplish that I never would have thought at least would have happened this early. So the fact that it's happening now is very personally inspiring, because that means I get to create the next decade of animations and see where we go from there. But even if it's able to appeal to new people that never saw my work before, and really like speaks to them and turns them into a fan, that's the exciting part to me. You could just kind of walk in not knowing anything about me and really enjoy your experience, and enjoy the animations and enjoy what the characters have to say. That's the magical feeling about all this.
And that's incredible, because I heard that the launch had over 1,700 VIP guests, which is like, for me, since I'm in the Comic Con world, that's just like incredible.
Yeah.
I heard it was like a record breaking or some audience or something like that.
Yeah. Apparently it broke the record, which like afterwards at dinner, I was like sitting with the K11 team, and they're like, yeah, today went like really well. And I was like, oh, amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. I had, it felt like it went well to me, but I don't know like what's standard. And they were like, no, yeah, over like 13 or 1,500, whatever they said, people came through, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of people. I didn't know if their standard was like more or what. Like, and they're like, no, that literally broke all of our previous records. And I was like, oh wow, okay, cool. And it was just sort of processing that, but yeah, couldn't ask for a better opening night, because like I said, people were just so excited to see this show finally happen. But the fact that it opened up with so much traction obviously means that there's a lot more people going each and every day. So yeah, I can't believe that happened, and the fact that it was like 1,700 folks or something, like that means that amount of folks felt inclined or interested or in love with my art enough to want to come out and either meet me or see what the show is all about. And yeah, I mean, I'm blessed that people think that it's to that degree.
I gotta say, bravo, my friend, because it felt like I was watching the video. It felt like you were like either like a pop star of aura, like the Michael Jackson or the Beatles, or even like if you're going talking about artist work, you're like someone like a Jim Lee or a Scott Snyder or Jeff Johns or Stan Lee or the late great Stan Lee while he was still alive, like getting rock star receptions.
No, I mean, you're comparing me to some of the greats. I appreciate it. When I'm in that moment, like only one thing matters to me, and it's, meeting as many people as I can, because I hate the feeling of like, oh, somebody wanted to meet me and I just wasn't able to. But also like really like outlining to people how much love was baked into this thing, and letting them know that I hope they feel that love, through the exhibition. So and I think I accomplished my goal of meeting everybody. And everybody just had a big smile on their face when they walked through the experience. So to me, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, absolutely. So second to last question, are you ready?
Yes, of course.
So I got to commend you on your social media numbers. So what are some of the strategies that you and your team worked on to make sure that you have high engagement, high following?
It's going to sound weird, but it really is just my intuition, seeing and really gauging as to what's working and what's not. Social media, of course, moves very fast. So what works in one moment or one week may not work the next week. You have to keep your finger very close to the pulse, of course. So I also really like to use my own personal judgment about what I find funny or what I find powerful or what I find exciting, because very, very, very often, if I find something hilarious or I find something super touching, very often the audience will feel the same way. And so I've tried to, of course, listen to my own gut. And at the end of the day, it is art. So if the artist doesn't believe in it, what's the point? But just really keep trying to, post stuff that you're genuinely feeling, but also, not being afraid to experiment and try something new. I think a lot of folks online, unfortunately fall into a little bit of a stagnant pattern, and they get locked into something that is just very like copy and paste, and the creator gets pretty bored of it and they burn out. But if you keep pushing the envelope and you see, there's always new stuff to be discovered out there. Every time that I did that, it's resonated with the audience super well. And I'm constantly reminded that I have to keep experimenting if this thing should, can keep living on. So I would say it's those two things. Obviously it's all the boring words like, scheduling and consistency and whatever. But I think the true core of it is not being afraid to experiment, and really listening to your gut about what you think is exciting to put out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So final question, are you ready?
Yes.
If any of my audience members can't make it to K11 Shanghai, but want to see your artwork or connect with you, where can they find you on social media, and where can they find their artwork?
Yeah, great question. So, of course, on social media, I'm just about everywhere, either as Coolman Coffeedan or Danny Casale. If you want to experience my vast digital world. My physical artwork right now, the only place it's located is in Shanghai, but there's always galleries that pop up around America that I usually post about on my social media. So if you're unable to get to Shanghai, I will be posting a little bit of a personal walkthrough to give a tour, to my followers on Instagram and whatnot. So that'll be going up very soon if you can't make it over there. But many more shows, whether it's a fully immersive experience like a K11 or more traditional gallery shows with my physical works coming soon. And I always talk about it on my social media platforms.
Awesome, awesome. So, guys, have you listened to an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast? Well, if you have, you can catch up on all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's just Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. or should I say X as of this recording. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, guys, if you just to let you know, jakestake.com, jakes.shake.com is celebrating its 12th anniversary in this August. So if you want to find out more interviews, more music reviews, what's going on with this season of America's Got Talent, and if you missed the last episode of The Masked Singer, head over to jakes.shake.com. Danny, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it, and congratulations with all your success.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I appreciate you having me on.
You're so welcome, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.